Hello everybody, good evening, welcome to the United Stand. This is your Manchester United versus Chelsea preview, but it's also a lot bigger than that as numerous sources break tonight that the players have turned on the manager, that the dressing room is turning against the manager, and that we are in familiar territory again where Manchester United football players are wagging the dog, taking control of the club with player power and downing tools for the fans. This has to stop. If you are Ten Hag out and you are happy about this, you are the biggest hypocrite. You are the biggest hypocrite. You sit there with one hat on saying the players are the problem, they're toxic, they're not good enough. But then because they turn on a manager that you don't want, they're right. They're right. Have you ever considered that there could be different streams to the problems at Manchester United here? If players are turning on the manager, they are enemies of the football club. I don't care whether the manager is David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Erik ten Hag, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. If players are leaking to the press that they've given up on the manager, then they're giving up on the fans because there is a badge on the shirt that you do not give up on for your own self-needs. This is ego. This is exactly the problem at Manchester United. Nemanja Matic has done an interview where he said at Chelsea, players were professional, they were punctual, but at Manchester United, every day, players were late. Open your bloody eyes here. I spoke about this yesterday, and you know what? I almost think, surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. Yesterday, universally, there was loads of conversations. We spoke about it last night, about the toxicity in the playing squad. We had a conversation last night about toxic players at that football club that have been there for years and how toxic can mean not good enough, weak mentality, or just bloody big-headed ego players. Toxic players. 24 hours later, there are leaks from numerous outlets, which we're going to talk about the manager. Wake up and smell the Maxwell House coffee. Wake up and smell it. Yesterday, the players are getting absolutely hammered because they haven't turned up on Saturday night, because they're toxic and they are the problem. 24 hours later, players are leaking about the dressing rooms turned on the manager. This is boring. It's so boring. And it's boring that our fans are stupid enough to fall for it. You are mugs. You are being mugged off by millionaire players that don't care about the football club. You do care about the football club. See it for what it is. It's multi-millionaire footballers who don't care about our club looking out for themselves so they can stay at the club a little bit longer and earn a load of money they never should have been given in the first place. This is just propaganda. This is just players leaking to the media to shift the blame on another manager and stay and keep earning money. And you will go, yeah, they're right. Get rid of the manager. And then in 3 years' time, you'll be doing it to another manager and these players will still be here. Wake up and smell the bloody coffee. Can't wait for the show, Mark. Should I bring Scooby-Doo again, says Jude? Please do. Please do. So look, let's hit these stories because we are here to preview the Chelsea game and you can see the team I think he's going to pick. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes because I want to talk about these stories that are coming out tonight. So this is coming in from Sky Sports News. Sky Cafe. Erik ten Hag has lost 50% of the Manchester United dressing room. I mean, what prat has done a poll for a start? What prat is leaking that for a start? Erik ten Hag has lost 50% of the dressing room. He's lost half of the dressing room. Did somebody do a survey at Carrington today? Who's leaking this shit? And look, work it out. Work it out who these players are again. It's the same players that sacked Solskjaer. It's the same players that wouldn't play for Rangnick. And the reason we know that is because there's 7 or 8 players that Ten Hag bought in the last 12 months that wouldn't be turning on Ten Hag. So you can figure out who it is straight away. Quite a few of Man United players are unhappy with Erik ten Hag's style of play. They also feel they are training too hard and running too much during the training. And they don't know why they're doing it. Some senior players have spoken to Ten Hag about why they feel the club is going wrong. They've spoken to him about their experience at other clubs and how his man management could be better. But Ten Hag is not for turning. He will do things his way. Well, I think this is a bit of a red herring because I think they're trying to say it's Casemiro and Varane because they've played for big clubs, but that's not 50% of the dressing room. So I think it's a bit of a red herring. And also, Casemiro's not even fit. So, you know, is it just Varane that they're trying to say it is? Well, that's not 50% of the dressing room either. As for this bit, some of the players feel that they're training too hard and they're running too much and they don't know why they're running so much. Well, I tell you what, can I go to Carrington tomorrow? Can we get all the players in? I'll do this for free, Eric. I'll do this for free. I will drive to Carrington tomorrow. You can take the morning off. I will stand there in front of all the United players and say, to all the dickheads who don't understand why you're running so much, play the tape, Steve McLaren. I'll play the game from Newcastle. That's why you're fucking running in training, you daft twats, because you don't run on a fucking Saturday night. That's why you're doing fitness work, because you don't fucking run. Bloody hell. But it's propaganda. It's propaganda. It's pure and utter propaganda. These players are letting you down, but because some of you want Ten Hag to be sacked, you're sucking off these players. It's ridiculous. You can be Ten Hag out for your own reasons, but don't be Ten Hag out because the players are saying they've turned on the manager. I couldn't give a shit about multi-millionaire players who don't give a shit about this football club turning on another manager for their own needs. If you don't want Ten Hag, it's probably because you don't like his style of play, you don't think he's the part of the future, whatever it is. It won't be the same reasons as a Man United player who wants to get rid of the manager because their mate's not playing, or because they're not playing, or because they don't want to get the blame again. It's disgusting, and shame on Sky Sports. Shame on Sky Sports, and shame on the Mirror for leaking this out at a time that's just going to divide our fan base again. Shame on you for protecting these sources. Oh, yeah, we've got our sources. We've got our sources. Tell us who these sources are. Tell us who these sources are. Well, you won't do that, will you? Because you want to protect future interviews. Well, Manchester United fans want to know who it is. We're tired of this. We're bored of this. You know, Gary Neville works at Sky. He's just put a tweet out saying same old stuff. Gary Neville, you're on the payroll at Sky. It's come from Sky. Find out who it is, Gary, and tell us who it is. Expose them. And I bet he'd love to do that. And I'd applaud him to doing it as well. I don't need players cheerleading for the fans to get Ten Hag out. You did it for Ollie. You did it for Mourinho. You did it for Ranić. You can't be trusted. In the majority, you are backstabbers. And we all know who the players are because it won't be Rasmus Højlund. It won't be Martinez. It won't be Anthony. It won't be Eriksen. It won't be players that Ten Hag has bought. So that takes away 30% straight away. So you can start figuring out who it is again. And look, the same old stuff comes out because it's not just coming from the Sky. Let me just read this. It's not just coming from Sky as well. Also, this is just incredible as well. A few of the Man United players believe that Erik Ten Hag is set in his ways and too robotic. Where have you heard this sort of offensive language before? Did we not hear it about Ranić having the piss taken out of him and now Ten Hag's robotic? Do you not think we're getting a bit xenophobic in the Manchester United dressing room, describing human beings as robotic and what they said about Ranić? The arrogance and ego of these bag of shit players who don't perform for United, who think they can project their shit onto us. You're part of the problem, lads. And quite a few of the players, this is the best bit, quite a few of the players are also unhappy with the way Jadon Sancho's been treated. So some of the United dressing room is unhappy that a Manchester United player, after we'd lost the game, decided to tweet and undermine the whole football club and didn't take it down for a week. And then Man United players think he's been treated badly. Yeah, I agree with you, lads. I think Sancho's been treated really badly for tweeting out publicly, embarrassing the football club and refusing to apologise for it. Yeah, I think Sancho needs to be back in the team on Wednesday night. I think he's been treated really badly. Yeah, let's bring an egotistical, arrogant, stubborn player back into the fold because we haven't got enough of them. We haven't got enough of those players in the squad. What? Complete and utter bullshit. This is leak to the media for morons. Morons are lapping this up. Morons are lapping this up and going, I told you so. I told you Ten Hag's not good enough. I told you he's a fraud. Even the players understand it. And then next week they'll be saying, these players are rubbish. They're frauds. Well, who's the fraud then? You know, you're backing players that you think are shit. Wake up and smell the bloody coffee. What's going on here? Esteban says, I've questioned Ten Hag this year at an alarming rate, but after tonight, how can we not back the manager? Training too hard. How are they pros? Says Esteban. Well, look, Esteban, look, you can be against Ten Hag and what's going on, but what if the scenario is this? What if the scenario is these players are downing tools and that's why we're not winning? They're not playing for the manager, again, because they want to get rid of a manager that's making them work too hard. What if you go into a place of work and you know you need to get people to work harder, and then those people won't work hard for you because they want to get you sacked? What needs to happen is the main boss needs to come in and clear out the shit and stick with the manager and his principles. What if these players just are doing it on purpose to get rid of another manager and that's why we're playing shit? I certainly think they were doing it on purpose on Saturday. You know, you can't sack another manager for these players to survive. It's a very, very, very clear line in the sand. You either back the manager and get rid of the players, or you get rid of another manager and stick with the players that will fuck this club up for another 3 years. This has happened 3 times in a row, says Dusk Patrol. These players are a disgrace, and this only happens at United. Journalists aren't doing journalism. They are chasing access. They'd sell their mum for an exclusive interview. It's like this all over the world, says Jermate. But journalism's dead, mate. If you want to call me, if you want me to call journalists out, they're terrified of even speaking to me, so I'll call them out anyway. I couldn't give a shit. I'm just a football fan like you. But journalism these days is basically whose arse can I lick to get an interview? Whose arse can I clean to get an interview? I won't say this about you. I mean, look, journalists literally get emails into their inbox from players' agents saying you're a bit harsh on the player ratings there. You're a bit harsh on this. It's not journalism. It's arse licking. Sky should be bloody ashamed of themselves tonight. Putting a fucking story out on a national sports media outlet that Ten Hag has lost 50% of the dressing room and that players are turning on him because they're working too hard and because they feel sorry for Sancho. I've never heard such shit in all my life. Even Hollyoaks wouldn't run this as a viable script. It's got so many bloody holes in it. What are Man United fans meant to do with that? Oh, I agree with the players. I've just watched them play against Newcastle and do sod all, but I'm really sympathetic that the manager wants them to work hard in training and run around. Yeah, I really feel sorry for you, you multi-millionaire bottlers. And as for the Sancho thing, yeah, I think you're right. I think Ten Hag's treated Sancho really bad after the tweet he put out. I mean, this is the modern Pratt footballer for you in all their glory and their agents who surround them. Not all footballers, but the toxic element I keep talking about. This is the toxic footballer who lives in a bubble where they think they're bloody Lord. I nearly said some surnames there. They think they're a lord and they think you're all peasants and they think that everybody feels sorry for them. Yeah, we all feel really sorry for you. How much have you cleared this week? Bullshit. Overpaid, egotistical, lazy, toxic elements that need rooting out of football, but certainly out of Manchester United. Rashford gets criticised in the mainstream. 24 hours later, we get leaks from the dressing room. Coincident? I don't think so, says Fred. Well, I don't think we need to pin it on Marcus Rashford here, but what I do think we need to do is say yesterday we were literally talking about the toxic element at that football club that has removed Solskjaer, Rangnick, and now Ten Hag. And we all know, we can all guess what those players are, and there'll be a few more as well. It's not just all. It's not. We don't know all the names of the players. We don't. We can guess some, but we won't know all of them. Let's be fair. And some of them might quite shock you. But ultimately, yesterday they were being completely and utterly and rightly outed as the problem at Man United. And a lot of us believe that sacking a manager is absolutely pointless because the toxic element will stay. 24 hours later, a raft of leaks come out from those players, shifting the blame onto the manager to protect themselves. It's time we called a spade a spade. Rashford is 26 and has been absolute rubbish and rarely works hard. Roy Keane is correct, says Ron. Players did not say anything about Ronaldo when he was exiled, but since it's one of the mates, there will be outrage. Pedro, I mean, what a brilliant, 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 brilliant comment. You know, nobody came out against the manager when Ronaldo got kicked out because it suited them, because Ronaldo wanted to work hard. Ronaldo wanted to win. They're all backing Sancho because they're all bloody lazy and they want to have an easy ride. It's player power FC. This is a battle for the ages here. It's a bit like what we've just had with Sir Jim and Qatar. But this is footballing. You're either going to back a manager or you're going to back the players. And that's the simple thing. I think we'll probably get beat by Chelsea on Wednesday. I was going to predict a win when we talk about it in a minute. I think we'll probably get beat by Chelsea on Wednesday. I think we're definitely going to get beat by Liverpool. But the reason we're going to get beat is clearly because these players are turning on the manager to get him sacked. This is disgusting. It's a player like Manchester United. You know, a few weeks ago, we buried an absolute icon legend of this football club in Sir Bobby Charlton. This is disgusting. This should not be allowed. This should not be happening at Manchester United. These people, these players do not reflect what Manchester United's all about. They are running this football club. Talk about the Glazers being toxic. How have they allowed footballers to run this football club? And why is it still happening? Why are we getting genuine leaks from outlets like Sky about players not being happy about having to run around too much? Why are players leaking in a derogatory way about how a manager speaks because English is not his natural language and calling him robotic? These are the sort of prats we've got wearing Man United shirts. It's disgusting. And it's not just Sky as well. It's not just coming in from Sky. Let me tell you this. Disco Mirror, who is, as we've always thought, a very good source around Manchester United. This is what he's saying. Separate tonight. Separate to the Sky story. Erik ten Hag is facing a dressing room revolt, with several members of his squad said to be disillusioned. So you've got Sky Sports saying it. Now you've got the Mirror saying it. Sources have indicated several players are unhappy with their current plight, with Ten Hag now facing a major battle to keep the majority of his squad on side. Despite being banished to train in the academy facility, Jadon Sancho is said to have maintained his fitness and is training like a beast. According to one source, with several of his Man United teammates wanting to see him reintegrated back into the Ten Hag squad. I don't care what you think. That's what I'd say if I was Ten Hag. I don't care what you think. I pay you to play for Manchester United and give your all. I do not pay you to tell me who you think should be playing in my team. F off. What the hell has it got to do with a current Manchester United player on who gets picked for Manchester United? Absolute nonsense. And look, the fact that this is coming in from Sky and the fact that this is coming in from the Mirror, two very separate sources with different ins to the club, suggests to me that 100% this is coming in from very good sources within the club, within the dressing room, to 100% undermine and turn this fan base against the manager. And I would say to you, you've got a very, 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 very big decision to make. Are you going to back the players or are you going to back the manager? Because this is not going to get better. This is now a war of attrition. This is players against manager. And where are you going to go with it? Are you going to be Ten Hag out with the players? Or are you going to be Ten Hag in with the football club? Because I think that this is actually probably done as a favour. This is probably done as a favour. Because what we know now is this is players downing tools. This is sabotage. They're doing it on purpose. It explains the Newcastle result. These players are downing tools for their own good to get a manager out. We will probably lose to Chelsea. They will probably down tools now to the extent that they will start losing games to get him out of the club. They're surviving because they want a new manager to come in and go, it's a clean slate again. Everybody gets another chance. That's what they want. That's what they want. And my honest answer is, how do you deal with a playing squad that's against you and trying to get you the sack in the middle of the season? Very, very difficult, because it depends how many players he can count on. I mean, this is where you need people like Martinez fit. This is where you need a midfield that you can rely on. You know, this is where Ten Hag's got a problem, because if he's relying on, I mean, look, Scott, let's be honest here. We can criticise Scott McTominay as much as you want. I don't think and this might surprise people, I don't think Scott McTominay will be a player turning on Ten Hag. I don't think he will be. But the problem is, ain't good enough to keep Ten Hag in a job. And this is the problem Ten Hag's going to have now. He will have players on his side and he'll have players against him. And if the players who are against him are better than the players that are with him, it becomes a very hard job. We as fans now are in a very, very difficult position because everything in my body is saying we've got to back this manager. We've got to root this toxicity out. They cannot be trusted. But we're in a position where we don't know who the toxicity is. There'll be rumours, there'll be speculation, there'll be certain players you can probably quite rightly guess, but some of them you won't know. So you don't know what you're backing and what you're not backing, and Ten Hag is identified as the enemy from these players. We know Ten Hag's the target, but we don't know who's targeting him because we never get this information. It never gets reported. They're more than happy on Sky to tell you that half the dressing room's turned against the manager, but they won't give us the fucking names. And if we had the names, then they'd shut up and work. It's a double negative. Ten Hag is there to be shot at as the manager, and we now know that players are turning against him, but we don't know who those players are. And it's not fair. It's not a fair fight because Ten Hag's a target. He's got a target on him, but we don't know who the players are who are shooting at him. We should know it. We should know it because if we did, they'd shit themselves and they'd suddenly start playing well. It's disgusting. It really, really is. I know it would never happen, but Keane needs some authority in the club to flush out the bullshit. He calls it as it is, says Tussin. And these players are basically guilty of match fixing. Not trying games to get what they want is disgraceful, says Josh. You know the Roy Keane thing, though? I do think that's bollocks because if you want Roy Keane to go into that dressing room, we've already got Erik Ten Hag in that dressing room, who's a disciplinarian, who's telling them to run, who won't listen to them. We've already got Roy Keane in the dressing room, and his name's Erik Ten Hag, and look at what the players are doing. They're complaining about having to run more. They're complaining about players being kicked out of the first team squad for not turning up on training and being... I mean, Sancho's out of the squad because he crossed the line. They're being asked to run around because they're not doing enough. These are two of the reasons coming out tonight that the players have turned against him. And then people are saying, get Roy Keane in the dressing room. Roy Keane would kick Sancho out. Roy Keane would make them run around. That's not the problem. The problem is seeing it through. Are we going to sack a manager that's been a disciplinarian to keep the players who are moaning about having to run around more? This is the situation and it needs to be solved. I'm going to make a prediction for you here. I think that United will continue to lose games and they will sack the manager and the players will win again. And then there'll be a bit of a renaissance because they've got to win the fans around. And then we'll be back where we are in 18 months. I've seen it all before. No amount of player experience gives a player authority over the manager, no matter who it is. The boss is the boss, says Jeet. Fools will back the players over the manager. Every team outworks us, and some players don't know why they are running. Are they thick, says Jalapena. And what is going on with Varane? How can't he be benched? How can he be benched? This is ridiculous. Have a nice evening, Mark, says Manu. Look, I would pick Varane. I think Varane is a fantastic player, and we're going to preview the Chelsea game now, but there is clearly been a fallout between Varane and Ten Hag, and the manager has to be the manager. I accept that. I don't like it, but I accept that. The fact that he's picking Maguire and Lindelof ahead of Varane tells me exactly what's happened. There's been a fallout, but you know, is Varane going to be our centre-back in 3 years' time? No, of course he's not. So if we're going to go and get rid of Varane in January, which Fabrizio said is likely, then as long as other centre-backs are coming in, then the point is, do you back the manager or do you sack the manager? Now, do you think it's look, I love Varane. I want Varane in the team. I don't think we'd be losing games if we had Varane in the team. But on the other hand, Varane can't be part of the future. I don't want to sack Ten Hag just because of Varane. I didn't want to sack Ten Hag because of Ronaldo. Like, the club is bigger than Varane, and it's bigger than Ronaldo. And neither of those players can be part of the next 5 years because of their age. So you stick with the manager who's trying to do something, but it's not just Varane who's got to go. Maguire's got to go. Lindelof's got to go. McTominay's got to go. Martial's got to go. You know, there's so many players. It's not just one player. It's not Rashford. It's not Bruno. It's not Varane. It's not Maguire. It's not McTominay. There's a whole load. It's 50% of the dressing room, apparently. And that's just people who are turning against Ten Hag. He's got to get rid of 50% of that dressing room. Like, if I was Erik ten Hag, I'd want to know who those players are, and I'd want to get rid of them. The problem is he won't know who those players are because some of them will be smiling to his face in training and stabbing him in the back, behind his back. Mark, who do you think the toxic players are? Look, I can't. Mbappe, I can't do that. And I respect you for asking me, and I can definitely name 2, 3, but I can't name half the dressing room, and therefore it's very, very unfair. And also, the United Stand is the biggest independent Manchester United fan channel community. We get more of an audience than some of these papers get. You know, these journalists who get access to the club, they don't get anywhere near the views that we get. So you start throwing a player's name out, and quite rightly, if you get it wrong, that player's going to sue you. So I'm not going to start speculating. Other people will because they're looking for an audience. I'm not going to do that. I've got a responsibility to you, but also got a responsibility to Manchester United Football Club and those players. I'm not going to shout players' names out unless I know, because it's not fair. If you get it wrong, quite rightly, they'd have every right to take a pot back, and I would accept that. Look, all I would say is, there's a certain group of players that have been at this club a period of time. Let's not even take it back to Mourinho. Let's widen the net a little bit. There's a certain group of players that have been here since Solskjaer and are still here now. Solskjaer, Ten Hag, Rangnick. That's 3 coaches. Some might say some of them have been here for Mourinho, but you're really closing the pool down there. Let's just say there is a toxic element at Man United that has been here for Solskjaer, Rangnick, and Ten Hag, and that's where you need to look if there is dissent, because it's not going to be Ten Hag signings. There's not one Ten Hag signing that's going to be turning on a manager that's only brought them to the club in the last 12 months. So it's from Solskjaer to Rangnick to Ten Hag. It's that's going to be where it is if there is 50%. But if it isn't 50%, why the hell are Sky in the UK? Sky are the biggest national sports media outlet in this country. Why is a journalist on Sky Sports News saying that Ten Hag has lost half of the dressing room if he hasn't lost half of the dressing room? And this is the problem, isn't it? I don't think he has lost half the dressing room. I don't think he has. I think that's just pure bullshit headline. And I'd say that to Sky Cave, who I don't know. I would say to him, you're talking absolute shit. And if he says to me, I trust my sources, I'd say, give us the names. I can't do that. Well, I don't believe you then. I think this is just a headline to bring clicks to your news outlet. I don't believe half the dressing room has fallen out with Ten Hag and turned on him. That's 14 players. Give us the names. No, I can't do that. Well, I don't believe you then. I think this is just another story to undermine and derail our football club, and another story to try and manipulate our fan base to move in a direction that creates more drama and news for you. Well, that's what I think. Mark, if Ten Hag is kept to prove himself through his contract, do you believe he will get rid of the toxicity? Paul, I don't know how Ten Hag's going to get the sack. I might have left taken half an hour to get to this point. Ten Hag's going to get the sack. Do you know why he's going to get the sack? Because every manager before him has lost in a player battle, because that's what we do. It's cheaper to get rid of a manager and keep these players that run the football club than it is to do what needs to be done. I think that some of these players that you think aren't good enough will be here longer than Ten Hag, because I think they run the football club. I've seen things, and over the last few weeks and months, and I've said it privately, and I've said it to the club, and I've said it to you, and I've said it to people I work with. I've seen things over the last few weeks and months that have led me to believe that that football club is wagged by players. And what I mean by that is, on a dog, a tail wags. The dog wags the tail. The bigger body wags the tail. The tail at Man United should be the players, because Man United's much bigger than them. But in my belief, and in my opinion, this club is wagged by the players. And you'll have publicly, you will publicly know some of the examples I'm referring to. But in my experience, I think the club is wagged by the players. I think Player FC works at that football club. And you'll know some of the stuff I'm talking about. And I think Ten Hag will lose his job, because that's what this club will do. I think these players will lose games. as they did with Ollie. I couldn't believe how Manchester United, even though I wanted Ollie to go, I couldn't believe how they got battered by Watford and Leicester. And I knew that was players downing tools. Under Rangnick, I couldn't believe some of the games we were losing. And I knew that was players downing tools. And under Ten Hag, I can't believe how badly we've played this season, because we're not that bad, and that's players not playing for the manager. And if you don't believe me on that one, that's absolutely fine. But I saw it with Solskjaer at the end. I saw it with Rangnick every week, and I've seen it with Ten Hag this season. These players are not playing to their best because they don't like it. And these players run this football club, and that's been going on since Mourinho. We've let players run this football club for years. People in the media, if they were honest, they'd tell you. They know what I'm on about, and they know it's true. They know they get little WhatsApps and they get little emails from certain players' agents saying, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are you speaking about him like that? They know they do, but they won't speak about it because they might be getting a little bit of an interview here, there, and everywhere. That football club, more than any football club, probably in the world, but certainly in the Premier League, is run by players. Ten Hag's days are numbered, and they shouldn't be, because what needs to happen at Manchester United is that football club needs to back this manager and sack these players, but they will never do it because of this. So we will go through the cycle again, where we'll be led down the path that the right thing to do is to sack the manager. And then these players will go, we've won, lads, smile on the face, let's try again, results improve. Can you not see that's what happens here? Can you not see that these players aren't trying? Soon as Ten Hag gets sacked, they try, the results improve. And then everyone goes, it's the manager's fault. It's the players. They drop into second gear, lose the games, and then when the new manager comes in, back up into fifth, win a few games. The manager was the problem. We've got another 3-year contract here. Let's how it goes. Let's have it. I think Ten Hag's going to get the sack. Ten Hag's going to get the sack unless people like Rasmus, Anthony, Martinez gets fit, Bruno, and a few others, unless those players can get out on that pitch and get us the results, Ten Hag's going to get the sack, because he can't succeed with that toxic element against him, and it's very sad. I'm not Ten Hag out, but have we considered that Ten Hag himself did this to expose the players and explain the failures, especially the disco mirror? Well, if he has, Sheriff, fair play. If I was Ten Hag and I knew the players were turning against me, I'd leak it. I would leak it. It's risky. It's very risky, and it's a clever thought. But if I was Ten Hag, I'd leak the truth out, because it exposes the players. And you would hope what I've said and what you're saying is true. You would hope that tactically leaking it out that the players don't want to run and they want Sancho back in the team, etc., would backfire on the players. So look, if Ten Hag's done that, he's a genius. But does Ten Hag know the way the media works in this country after 12 months? I don't know. I think the leaks from Rangnick's not here, and they're still happening. The leaks with Ollie and Jose, they're not here, and the leaks are still happening. So I would still suspect it's coming from the dressing room. All players need to be held responsible to find out who the traitors are. Leaks cannot be tolerated. Do other clubs ever have these leaks? Says X Bits. No, because other clubs aren't run by players, and we are. The players that would play professionally like Ronaldo and Varane were benched by Ten Hag himself because of his ego, says Da Vinci. I know you're sad about the injustice that happened to Man City, says Ajit. No, couldn't give a shit. But anyway, look, let's talk about this Chelsea game. Rashford out, Anthony in, says Reese. So we're going to talk about Chelsea. We can carry on talking about what we were talking about there. We're going to talk about this Chelsea game because it sort of fits in with what we've just been talking about. I predicted before the game that we'd beat Chelsea. Chelsea away from home, they don't score many goals. We saw that what happened to them to Newcastle. I was anticipating a very raucous 75,000 atmosphere on a weeknight. And the crowd and a home game could work together to intimidate Chelsea, and maybe we scrape a 1-0 or a 2-0. I'd like to completely and utterly reassess that, because if I know the players aren't playing for the badge, and I don't like the term players aren't playing for the manager. In fact, I'm not going to use that anymore. Players aren't playing for the club. The manager is just a paid employee of Manchester United. The football club represents the fans, and the fans represent the football club. So if the players aren't playing for the fans, which is what happened on Saturday, Chelsea will beat us. So, there's the challenge really to those players, isn't it? If you lose to Chelsea on Wednesday, it's because you've downed tools like you did on Saturday. And if they're downing tools like the media says, then we'll lose. You can't win a Premier League game if your players aren't trying. So I think we'll probably lose on Wednesday if these players are trying to do what everyone's saying they're trying to do. So I would predict a Chelsea win because these players are cowards, toxic, and bottlers. And I hope they take that as inspiration because we bloody well need some. So I would predict that we will lose. In relation to team selection, this is what I think he will do. I think it's the worst thing he can do, but I think this is what he will do. I think Shaw will stay at centre-back with Maguire, Onana, Wan-Bissaka, Reguilon. I think he'll go Mainu, McTominay and Bruno. And I think he'll go Garnacho, Højlund and Rashford. What I would do in this, based on Rashford's performance against Newcastle, he deserves to be dropped. So you go Anthony, who will be a player that loves Ten Hag, so he will play for you as well. So that's an easy win. Rashford needs to be dropped because he played badly, and Anthony, is on your side. So you go with Anthony. And then in the midfield, I would drop McTominay, who probably isn't a toxic element, but it just isn't very good. And I'll play Amrabat, who 100% is going to be behind Ten Hag as well. So they're the two changes I would make. And those two changes, I think, change the outcome of the game, potentially. Because McTominay was dreadful and got bullied against Newcastle, so Amrabat can't be any worse. And Anthony is a Ten Hag player, and Rashford played badly at the weekend. And I think those two tweaks could be the difference between losing and winning. Now, look, I'd also like to do this, and it won't happen. I'd love to do that. But let's be fair, it won't happen. And it probably shouldn't happen if Varane and Ten Hag have fallen out. So it will probably be Maguire. But I'd love it to be Varane, and I think we'd be better off. But if they've fallen out, they've fallen out. We can't do anything about it. Show us your jumper, says Chris. I will show you that in a moment. Rashford has always been at the core of the players downing their tools when things go left. I'd happily sell him and make Garnacho our starting left winger. Rashford needs to leave if he keeps his attitude as Danish. Well, look, Rashford doesn't deserve to start against Chelsea. It should be Anthony. I think Ten Hag might start him because I think this is one of those players that maybe the club think is bigger than the club. I don't know, but I think Rashford will start. And I don't think he should. But look, that's my personal opinion. In relation to the game itself, interestingly, Chelsea's away record is nearly as good as our home record. They've won 3, drawn 1, and we've won 4, drawn none. So they've scored 12 goals away from home and they've conceded 9. We've scored 8 goals at home and conceded 10. So as much as Chelsea's away record isn't that good, it's almost duplicate of our home record. So it could be quite a tight game. Leroy says Chelsea's midfield scares me. And this is the area. Look, Nicholas Jackson doesn't scare anyone. Michael Jackson's scarier in Thriller. In fact, Michael Jackson's scarier in Heal the World. But my point is, Chelsea aren't the most ruthless of teams when it comes to scoring goals. But their midfield is better than ours. Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, and Gallagher's got sent off, so he won't play. Maybe they'll put Cole Palmer in there. But their midfield 3 is a problem. And I think you can't put Scott McTominay in there because you saw what Joel Linton did. He's got to try and put a midfield out there that does something. And he might not start Mainu because he's 18 years of age, but that just shows you the problems that he's got. CD Sava says that midfield will stomp us. Look, I'm worried. I'm worried about this. Chelsea have won at the weekend. They've got a manager that they're playing for. They've been through a bit of a bumpy ride, but they're coming through it. And they'll come to Manchester United and they'll see a wounded animal and they'll know they'll be able to get hold of the ball and they probably will dominate the ball. And Man United were all over the place. Nigel Flynn says it's not in the comments. Says, I'll have a look for it, Nigel, don't worry. So I feel that I just think it's a bad recipe. As I said, before all this, if you'd asked me 2 hours ago, I'd have said Man United will win this 1-0. Scrap it, 1-0. But with these leaks coming out, and knowing that players are downing tools, how can you predict that Man United are going to win when you've got players on the pitch that are purposely trying to lose. And that's basically what leaks are saying. You know, they're not happy with the manager. They don't like running around. You know, they're against him. So I'd put it on the players. You know, show us you care or fuck off. Why is Erik Ten Hag not picking his signings, says Dan. And Man United, the only club where the inmates are running the asylum, and says Jap. Thank you very much. I'm a Chelsea supporter, and I think our team picks and chooses which games they play. So I fancy Man United to win. Well, I hope you don't turn up. I hope you don't turn up. But I think it's going to be a real struggle. What I will say is there's no place to hide at Old Trafford. And if you're going to be at the game on Wednesday night, as I'm sure some of you will be, then it's very different to down tools at Anfield. It's very different to down tools at Newcastle. And I know it's been held up that our away record under Ten Hag is not very good. And I know that it's not just Ten Hag. It wasn't very good under Solskjaer either. What surprises me is that our away record is now 100% exclusively to do with Ten Hag. It was shit under Rangnick. And it was shit under Solskjaer at the end. Our away record's not just gone bad under Ten Hag. It's been shit for a very long time. But they don't want to report that because it's got to be about Ten Hag. But I've said this so many times. I've said it on the show tonight. If you're looking for the toxic element at Manchester United, you only need to go back to the end of Solskjaer's reign, through Rangnick to Ten Hag, and you will find your issues. You will find your element. You will find your toxicity. End of Solskjaer reign, through Rangnick to Ten Hag. That's where it is. That's where the toxic element is in that dressing room. Away record in that time has been horrific. 3 managers have been turned on. Why are we so shit away from home? Because it's the place where that toxic element can down tools safely. They can't down tools at Old Trafford. There's 75,000 fans that are going to absolutely slaughter them. But at Anfield or at Newcastle, or at the Etihad, or at the Emirates, or even at Brighton, they can down tools because there's only a couple of thousand at best away fans there, and they're drowned out by the ecstatic home crowd. They can just jog off to the dressing room at the end, ignore the away fans, and, you know, job done. On Wednesday night, you might see a different United because they've got nowhere to hide if they don't perform, and they shouldn't be given anywhere to hide, especially after Saturday night. But, yeah, the away record is not exclusively Ten Hag's problem. The dressing room is not exclusively Ten Hag's problem. The turning on the manager is not exclusively Ten Hag's problem. If you get your mindset that the last few months of Solskjaer, through Rangnick to Ten Hag, that is consistency. That's the problem. It's not just Ten Hag's problem. It goes right the way back through Rangnick to the end of Solskjaer. That's the consistency. Toxicity, shit away from home, downing of tools. And people will quite rightly say, well, welcome to the Members Club, Smitty, by the way. What do they want to do? Play walking football instead, says Gems. They all need a short, sharp shock. Either step up or get out. We've had enough, says Gems. Well, but Gem, you're right. And also, but you've got to have the ownership to do it. It's all right us sitting here saying we've got to remove that toxic element. The Glazers don't want to do it. Ten Hag tried to sell some of these players in the summer. They're still here. Like, what's the manager supposed to do? Roy Keane said this yesterday. You've been saying it for months. Ten Hag tried to remove some of these players in the summer, and the club wouldn't sell them. It's like going to the doctors and saying, I can't sit down. I've got a painful boil on my arse. There it is. Cut it out. And the doctor says, no, you just have to live with it. You go home and you deal with the toxicity. We've got to have owners to cut it out. We know what the problem is at Man United, but we've got to have the owners to do it. You look at Ten Hag's first season. Kay says, even under Ollie, there were no fans in the stadium, so I take no notice of that so-called away record. Exactly. Remember Ollie's apology to Rashford as well, says James. Look, I'm not pinning this on Rashford. I won't name names. It's not fair. But what I will concede is that players run that football club. In my opinion, players run that club. I think there's people who work in that football club in high positions who are shit scared of players and their agents. I think there are journalists who work covering Man United who are shit scared of players and agents. I think players run that football club. I think there's plenty of evidence to suggest that. Mark, what other formation and players would you use this midfield is always getting outrun and making limited chances for Højlund? I'd go with that. I think that's about as good as he can go on Wednesday. We need the Butcher and Casemiro back ASAP to bring back balance to the dressing room and on the field, says Leo J. But look, somebody said it in the chat and they're absolutely right. No proof justifying picking Rashford and McTominay, so why? Because I wouldn't pick them either, but I think you might. Very good question is, why did these players play well for Ten Hag last season, but they won't do it now? Honeymoon period. We've seen it. We saw it. Why did Mourinho finish second in the league and win a Carabao Cup and a Europa League, but then the players turned on him? Why did Solskjaer have a really good start to his career and then the players turned on him? Because, I mean, Rangnick, bless him, he got half an hour against Palace and then they gave up. For half an hour against Palace in his first game, we looked bloody brilliant, and then they gave up. But what happened with Ten Hag is, Ten Hag comes in, spends a bit of money, players get on board with it because they have to. Otherwise, you know, no one's going to be on their side turning on a manager in his first few months. So the players have to get on board with it at the start. They get success, and then year two, they're bored. Oh, I don't like this, it's too hard. Oh, I don't like the way he speaks to him. Oh, I don't like the way he's talking to him. This is our club. This is our club. And that's what happens. They'll play for a manager for the first year because they have to. But in year two, they don't have to do it anymore. No, I'm not doing that again. That was hard work. Who does he think he is? Does he know who I am? Has he seen how much I earn a week? I'm not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Why is he not picking him as well? What's he on about? Does he know who I am? How much money am I on compared to him? And he's not picking him, and he's doing that. I don't care. Last year was hard work. I'm not doing that. He wants me to run, but he can run. He can jog on. Get him out. Get me a meeting with the CEO. Let's get him out. You laugh, but you know, how far from the truth do you think that is? Considering it did for Mourinho, it did for Ollie, it did for Rangnick, and it could do for Ten Hag. Let's not pretend that those things aren't going on. It's not all of them. It's some of the players running the club. Who are they? No, sacking, it's not all of them. I mean, let's be honest. I can give you some names that it won't be, definitely. And this is not aimed at those players, and they'll be intelligent enough to know that. There's no way it's Onana. Let's be honest. There's no way it's Rasmus. It shouldn't be Mason Mount. I mean, I'd be stunned if it's Mason Mount. Obviously, he's an English player, and there are English players that he'll be mates with that have been here a long time. But it shouldn't be Mason Mount, if we're being honest. It shouldn't be Christian Eriksen. It shouldn't be. It won't be Martinez. It won't be Anthony. It shouldn't be Casemiro. So you can start picking it out. It shouldn't be players that he's brought to the club, basically. But you never know with the modern footballer, of course. Ten Hag gone before Christmas, in my opinion, says, look, this story tonight is not good. I think he's going to get the sack. I think he's going to go because I think this football club always throws the manager to the wolves because it's cheap. And look, this is Sir Jim Radcliffe's first test. Is he the saviour or is he more of the same? Sir Jim Radcliffe could come in and go, I want these players to be in my team. I'm not spending money getting rid of all of them. Let's get rid of the manager and try and find a way to make these players happy. Let's give them a stroke. I think if you have Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia or Qatar coming into Manchester United, these players are gone because financially they can do it. I think under a club that's very, very reliant on money, why are they going to make money decisions? I don't think it will change. I think a lot of these toxic players will still be here in 1, 2, 3, 4 years. Why doesn't Eric just play the players who stand by him? Keeps picking Rashford even though he doesn't put a shift in. Maybe wants him out, says Felix. But maybe Rashford's with Ten Hag. You know, just because he's playing... McTominay's probably with Ten Hag. He's not very good. Don't assume that because a player's playing badly, they're not with Ten Hag. You know, surely the players that Ten Hag... I agree with you. Ten Hag should be picking the players that have got his back. If he's not, well, that shows you how deep the problem is. Billy says, we knew this was coming. We were told things would be good, but there were snakes in the dressing room, overpaid egomaniacs that are unable to change, says Billy. Yep, and I go back to what I said before. If, you know, look at Sancho. Ten Hag gave him 3 months off when he wasn't injured, supported him. How did Ten Hag repay that support? Tweeted about him. You know, I can think of some of these players that aren't delivering for Ten Hag and what he's done for them at this football club in a short period of time. They haven't got his back at all. You can't trust these players. You can't trust them. Some of these players were meant to go in the summer. He wanted them to go. They wouldn't go. And now, you know, are they causing problems for him? I don't know. Ollie was absolutely terrified of Rashford after issuing the softest criticism, if we could even call that. I know you won't say it, so I will, says SK. I know what you're talking about there. Look, I don't agree with pinning this on any player when it's meant to be 50% of the dressing room. People run away with things. I know what you're talking about. Ollie said something about Rashford, and then at the start of a press conference, he had to apologise for it. I don't think that means Rashford's involved in this. I think that's very unfair. He's just signed the new contract because Ten Hag recommended it. Ten Hag picks him every week. I don't think Rashford should have any problems with Eric Ten Hag, and I'd be very disappointed if he did. Do I think that Solskjaer thing was evidence of the club being run by players? Yes. Do I think players are running this football club? Yes. I know what you're talking about. You know, I know exactly what you're talking about. And the fact that a manager shit himself about a player shows you just how powerful players are within that football club. But it won't be one player. It'll be a collective of players. And, you know, shame on the Glazers for allowing that to happen. A football club should never. I mean, I remember speaking to Ryan Giggs, Paul Ince, people like this. Absolutely fantastic players that won major trophies for Man United would never in a million years go behind the manager's back and think that they could run the football club. I mean, it's embarrassing, isn't it? Man United have not been near a Premier League title in 10 years. And we've got players who are more powerful than the manager. And yet, for the previous 20 years before that, well, not even 20 years, let's be honest, the previous, 25 years, we had some of the best players that have ever played the game, and not one of them would have dared say boo to Sir Alex Ferguson. The Cantonars, the Beckhams, the Ronaldos, the Giggs, the Keanes, they wouldn't dare try and go toe-to-toe with the manager. And they're way better than the players we've got now, but it explains our failure. We succeeded with world-class players who were terrified of the manager. And we're failing with players who aren't terrified as the manager and aren't world-class. It's just... and we wonder why we fail. It's very, very simple, isn't it? But look, as I said, you've got a choice to make. 69% of you are Ten Hag in. 31% of you are still Ten Hag out. I don't know what your reasons are. I have to respect it. But I think if you care about this football club, this is not about... Why do you want to sack the manager and bring another manager in to give these toxic players yet another chance? Sacking the manager on this occasion has to not happen. It's got to be removal of the players this time. It has to be. Otherwise, we're letting them run this football club again. And that can never be right. I think it's up to Sir Jim to talk to the players by saying, if you don't play for the badge and work hard on the pitch, you will be sold, says Darren. Matt Casey, welcome to the members club. Any more Christmas knitted jumpers being made, says Smitty. No, this is from last year. These went last year and the blue one went a couple of months ago. But we've still got other Christmas jumpers if you want to get hold of them. Just a quick reminder, actually. I did leave the link in the live chat. A week tonight is our Christmas show in Manchester. We still have got, I was told before the show, we've got about a handful of tickets left. So if you want to be there, it's going to be a great night in Manchester a week tonight at our United Stand Christmas show. Check out the link in the video description. There are still a few left, so check that out. Thanks everyone tonight. I know it was meant to be a preview, but it went somewhere completely else. This is for me, this is a line in the sand. You're either going to stick with a manager that's trying to do something with players that won't play for him, or you're going to stick with players that have let us down time and time again. But whichever way you go, one thing that does unite us is this is a disgrace. This is a disgrace that this is happening. If this was happening at Liverpool, I'd say it was a disgrace. How can we have a football club, whichever side of the fence you're on, whether you're with the players or whether you're with the manager, how is Manchester United being allowed to run like this, where players are as powerful as a manager? It's disgrace, and it's been going on for at least 7 years. How is that happening at this football club? It's disgusting. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll speak to you in the morning. Take care.